Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and well, I thought I would go over the Ruby Franke situation again because I put up a brief video yesterday and it was quite well received, I think, but I thought I would put across more of my thoughts and what I think about the situation, as well as updating you about one or two other things which have been noticed. So today, Shari Franke, the eldest daughter of Ruby, put out a statement here which is a bit concerning about her current state of mind at the moment. Recently, she also put out a statement which said along the lines of her anxiety and things were bad. Now, this one today, she said, "If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that anxiety and trauma can display in physical symptoms, getting IV fluids and anti-vomiting medication." So that is her situation, her state of mind at the moment. It's a little bit worrying. Hopefully she'll be okay. But on another note, the niece of Jodie Hilderbrandt, the other one in this case, the niece who had previously spoken out about Jodie, had something to say on the situation because she had been asked apparently for statements on the Ruby situation.
So I've been getting a lot of messages and phone calls and texts and emails about making a statement regarding Ruby's guilty plea, and I've honestly, it's been a pretty difficult 24 hours, a surprisingly difficult 24 hours. I didn't expect to have the reaction I had hearing the news, but I've decided to not go on record in response to her plea. Mostly because Jodie's hearing is on the 27th, and I'm certain that I'm going to be asked to make a statement then. And seeing as my experiences with Jodie and not with Ruby, I would feel, I think, more in alignment to respond then. For everyone that's been reaching out and checking in on me, thank you. I really appreciate it. These last 4 months have been some of the, if not the most insane months of my adult life. And it's been really wild to experience so much overwhelm from something that is objectively positive. I thought I've been handling the last 4 months relatively well, but yesterday's news definitely shook me more than I expected. Kind of feels like the last straw to my nervous system. So I will be taking care of that for a while.
So that was Jessie Hildebrand and her the way she's thinking at the moment about the situation. She obviously took it quite hard when the Ruby case was heard, but she's still got to look forward to the Jodie case, which is her main aspect because she has suffered at the hands of Jodie in the past. Now, next I'm going to go over the charges and what I think about the charges. I know I showed the charges and the plea agreement the other day, but I didn't really give an opinion or anything about it, so we're going to go through that right now and see what I have to say. So here are the charges. We've got aggravated child abuse, which carries a 1 to 15 year sentence and a $10,000 fine, or a $10,000 fine up to. So all the charges are the same. The outcomes, like charge 1, 3, 5 and 6, they all carry a 1 to 15 year sentence and an up to $10,000 fine. So the maximum I guess she can serve here is 4 times 15, that's 60 years, and a $40,000 fine. And nobody's really interested in the money except for the stash that she's got in her bank account. Obviously, we're interested in that, and where that goes, I think it should go to the kids personally, not to Kevin. Obviously, he's going to get his hands on it, but I don't think it should. Now, these are the descriptions of what the charges mean. You've got a second degree felony in that the defendant intentionally or knowingly inflicted upon a child, RF, that's the elder child, serious physical injury, or having the care or custody of each child caused or permitted another to inflict serious physical injury upon said child. So that is her knowing that she has committed this or allowed somebody else to do so. And again, another one against the elder child, RF. And the third count is against the younger child, EF, as is the last charge. So these are the details, and as I've said previously, this is very hard to listen to, so if you don't want to or can't hear any of this, then you're probably best not doing so. It's very intense, and you might not want to hear what these children went through. From approximately May 22nd, 2023 until August 30th, 2023 in Washington County, Utah, the defendant Ruby Franke intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon her children that were ages 9 and 11 to 12, as fully described below. And that's important to note that this isn't just saying that Ruby allowed this to happen. She didn't just sit back and allow it to happen, which would have been bad enough, and it's pretty much what most people thought had happened. But it's saying here that she also partook in this, in the things that happened to her kids as well. So count 1. The defendant's actions involved the physical torture of RF. Initially, RF was forced to do physical tasks for hours and days at a time. These included wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down stairs, and working outside. Eventually, RF was forced to do outside labour without shoes and in the summer heat. He was forced to stand in the direct sunlight for several days. He was forced to remain outside at all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. These actions resulted in repeated and serious sunburns with blistered and sloughing skin. RF was denied adequate water for several of the days he was required to remain in the summer heat, and he was punished when he secretly consumed water. He was denied sufficient food, and when given food, he was given very plain meals, e.g. rice and chicken, while others in the house ate regular and more flavourful meals. He was isolated from other people and denied all forms of entertainment, including books, notebooks and electronics. So already I'm seeing a very clear pattern here of just nastiness, horribleness, and downright, torture, basically, to get your child to just do all these tasks out in the burning heat. You know, it was in the height of the summer, and then deny them water. And even when he dared to to sneak a bit of water which he needed to survive. They punished him for that. The mind actually, it's insane. It's incredible. I don't know what to say. It's really, really heartbreaking what they put him through. In addition, after RF attempted to run away in July, his hands and feet were regularly bound. Binding included being tied to the defendant and to weights. So he was tied up and attached to his mother so he couldn't get away. It's just, that's very specific. The defendant in this case does mean Ruby. Many times the binding, including using 2 sets of handcuffs, one on RF's wrists and one on his ankles. At times, with RF lying on his stomach, ropes were used to tie the 2 sets of handcuffs together so that his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. What in actual hell is the matter with these two? Seriously, there is no amount of justification that can just what I mean. I've gone through trying to not justify Ruby's actions, but pretty much lay more blame on Jodie, because I still maintain that Jodie was she's really, really evil. But obviously reading this and that Ruby has done this to her own child is just there's no words. I can't describe how bad this actually is, and how horrible and nasty and evil and disgusting and disgraceful and every other word that you can think of to describe Ruby. It's just, and then she comes out the other day with I am sorry, my family, I've tried to get back in touch with my family and I want to amend the relationship with them, but how I gotta say, how do you actually expect people, even your family, just to say, oh yeah, no problem whatsoever? I mean, I assume your family have read this as well and seen this. Did they see this before the court case? Because bloody hell, seriously. Anyway, this is horrible. Where were we at? The bindings resulted in injuries to RF's wrists and ankles, where the handcuffs cut through the skin and damaged the muscle and tissue. These injuries were treated with homeopathic remedies and covered with duct tape. Then the bindings were placed on top of the duct tape. So that's the stuff that we originally heard about, that they found at the scene. It was like a mixture of like crap. What was it, like orange and stuff, water, orange. I can't remember what it was now, but it was stuff they found at the scene. And at the time, I remember we talked about the fact that they were trying to use that to cure or to make right what they were doing, and it's just, if anything, it's probably made it worse, in my opinion. Specific instances of abuse committed by the defendant include 1. Kicking RF while wearing boots, 2. Holding his head underwater, and 3. Cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth and nose. Now, as many people have already alluded to, this sounds very much like attempted murder. I would agree with that. I know in law they'll say, yeah, it's not as cut and dry as that, but it is, in my opinion. It is, right? I saw somebody say that if they can't prove it, the intention, then they can't go ahead with like attempted murder if they can't improve your intent. But there is literally nothing else that you are intending to do except for cut off their oxygen supply whilst their head is underwater. There's only going to be one outcome with that, right? You're going to kill the person. So I don't see what else it could possibly be that is, their intention there. It's attempted murder, plain and simple. I don't really care. It's like I'm quite a black and white type of person in some instances, others I'm not. But when it comes to somebody, when in law, when there's like a manslaughter case and the person has killed another person and they're getting manslaughter because it was unintentional, but on the other hand they had like stabbed them, and it's like, well, if you have a knife and you go and stab somebody, there's no other intent there as far as I'm concerned except for you intended to hurt them and you intended to kill them or whatever, right? But apparently law isn't quite as cut and dry as that. It's probably why I'm not a lawyer, but I still think that intent. You have a situation, you know what you're doing, so you intend to do it. I don't care what anybody else says. That is, it's another insanity that I can't get my head around. Why Ruby would do this? Why? For what reason? I think we're about to find out. Count 2. The actions described caused severe emotional harm to RF due to the fact that they began in May and escalated through the summer months. Additionally, the defendant and another adult regularly sought to indoctrinate RF and convince him that he was evil and possessed, and that he needed to willingly be obedient to avoid punishments, and that the punishments were necessary to repent. He was also told that everything that was being done to him were acts of love. Now, this is as much as all the horribleness was going on, this is almost equally as bad, right? Because they are causing emotional harm, it's mental harm to him. They're saying, right, you have to do all this and you're getting so much wrong done to your body. It's horrible, it hurts and everything. Yeah, but this is just because we love you, right? It's because we love you. It's like those people, those absolute morons, right, that will abuse a child or a partner, right? You know the ones, right? They hit the hell out. The men or women that beat up their partners, right? And then they beat them to a pulp and they say, it's because I love you. It's because I love you that I had to do it, right? I had to do it because it's not love, fuck's sake. And that's disgusting. And then this child is continuously being told that he is evil and he's possessed and he's a horrible person, and he's told that day after day after day. And children and anybody, if you're told that over a great period of time whilst having to go all through this crap, because at the end of the day, remember, he's lugging things around in hot weather and he's dehydrated and everything. His immune system is shot, right? and they they feed him this crap about him being evil and possessed, and he'll believe it after a time, right? He will. That's the way these things work, unfortunately. So it's sad, it's sick, it's sadistic, and it also is. Now, I know that a lot of people hate on Ruby, and again, I do too, but it's very much the actions here of Jodie, as we've seen from other people who have come forward about what Jodie does. This is what Jodie does, right? Jodie's niece, if you remember, I did a long video on that, and she came out and said Jodie basically tells you all this, makes you do all these things, gets you to run up mountains in the heat and things like that, and then tells you that they love you at the end of it. And it's like, you know, it gets your emotions on edge, which is it, you know. The defendant's actions also caused severe emotional harm to EF, other than binding and the specific instances of abuse RF was subjected to. EF was subjected to the same treatment as her brother. She was isolated and forced to do the physical tasks, remain outside, and denied food and water. She was also repeatedly told she was evil and possessed. The punishments were necessary for her to be obedient and to repent, and these things were being done for her in order to help her. EF was convinced that she was evil and needed to go through these things in order to repent. So pretty much the exact same thing the younger child went through as well. Count 4. The defendant's actions caused 2 or more physical injuries to EF. She was forced to work outside in the heat barefoot. She was also forced to run barefoot on dirt roads for an extended period of time. EF's feet were repeatedly injured by, and she was repeatedly sunburned. When examined on August 30th, these wounds were apparent by scabs, blisters, and sloughing of the skin. So this is the plea agreement, the thing that she's actually agreeing to when she pleaded guilty. My guilty plea is a result of a plea agreement between myself and the prosecuting attorney. Number 1. The defendant agrees to plead guilty to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a secondary felony, count 3, count 5, and count 6. Number 2. The state agrees to dismiss count 2, aggravated child abuse, a secondary felony, and count 4. So originally there were 6 counts of child abuse, but 2 have been dropped and 4 remain. Those are the ones that she has pled guilty to. Number 3, the defendant shall submit to a pre-sentence investigation with adult probation and parole. 4, the defendant agrees to serve a prison term, so it's guaranteed she's definitely going to serve a prison term. Number 5, the sentence received for count 1, 3, 5, and 6 are to be served consecutive to each other. So that means that she can, get like the full 60 years. So if it's, say it's 5 years for each count, it would be counted 5, 10, 15, 20, rather than if it was concurrent, that would be at the same time as each other. So 5 years for each would mean 5 years, something like that. I'm not gonna Jesus. Sorry, I literally do not know this stuff, so I that's kind of the way that I see it, or I understand it. I may be wrong, but I do know that she stands to serve a long time. Number 6, the defendant agrees to testify truthfully against Jody Hilderbrandt, and in return, the Washington County Attorney's Office agrees to remain neutral regarding future hearings before the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. So that means that Jody, she's got some opposition, because by pleading guilty, one of the terms of this agreement is for her to have to testify against Jody, which should put Jody in a bit of hot water, which is good. So that was the harrowing details of the case that Ruby is actually agreeing to, admitting to. So, I personally still don't think that she is sorry for it, but she has to come to an agreement, because the evidence against them is so bad that she doesn't really have much choice but to agree to it, basically. And the more she agrees to it, the better deal she can get for herself, and that's where we are at the moment. Now, the one thing I would like to finish on here is the interactions of certain family members who turned up to the court case. Now, it's been widely reported that the two, that was Ruby's mother and her sister Julie, were both there in support of her. And I don't know if I can disagree. So let's have a quick look at that. So as we can see, the one on the left is Julie, and the one on the right here is Ruby's mum. And what happens here is we can see that Julie gives Ruby a smile. Coming up now. There you go. A nice big smile by Julie. Now, looking at it closer again, I would say, even though it is a little bit unclear, I would say that she's definitely smiling towards Ruby. Whether or not that's a nervous smile, I don't know, but she's definitely smiling. Her intentions, who knows? But the mother, she mouths something, and it's been speculated that she's saying, "I love you," and I think it's possible, definitely possible, that that's what she's saying. To me, it's a little bit unclear. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below whether you think that that is in fact an "I love you," or just something else, maybe calling her daughter a bitch or something like that. Although I doubt it. So let me know all your thoughts about this down below. The situation with her parents and her sister actually attending the court case is a little bit uneasy, right? Because why are they there? Are they there to support? That was originally the question. Were they there to support their daughter their daughter and sister who's done this horrible thing? Now, Julie herself has previously come out in damnation of her sister, but I don't know Ruby's parents' opinions, because they've been away and they've never spoken out about it. But would you, if you were in this situation, would you forgive your daughter? Would you support her in this situation where she's been accused and she's going to go to jail for a long time? Would you support her? Now, I've seen many people say that it's disgusting that they're supporting their daughter through this, right? And I get why people say that. I really do. I also get why people also support their daughter or their sons who have done such horrible crimes. That history is littered with people who have committed really horrible crimes, probably even worse than this, and yet still their parents support them because they are their parents. Right. I'm not saying that that's everybody. Some people don't. There are cases where the parents would disown their children, but there's also cases on the other side of the coin where they don't, and I get it from both perspectives. I do. If it was me, and if I was in that situation, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, from an outside perspective, I would say, yeah, I would disown Ruby right now for doing that. It's a horrible crime what she's committed. But on the other hand, I don't know, because I've never been there, and hopefully I'll never be there. Right. So that is back up to date, I guess. We've only got a few more days now until the Jody case, so I'm going to get onto that and bring you that. That's on the 27th of December. Now don't forget, because just because it's not Ruby, I know Ruby is like the main draw and the main attraction on this whole case because of her stature, but at the end of the day, Jody is also involved. And Jody was very heavily involved in this as well. So let's not give her a free pass on this. So let's go and tune in and see how it plays out, because it will be interesting now that Ruby has pled guilty and agrees to testify against Jody, what Jody's next move will be herself. Will she make a plea? Who knows? Let's find out. Until next time, please give this video a massive thumbs up and comment all your thoughts about it down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you again soon. Another video. Take care of yourselves, and bye bye.